Let me introduce myself. My name is Antonia Zierer. I'm Executive Director of Invest in Bavaria. I'm based in San Francisco. And I work for the German state of Bavaria, and we're helping US companies expand into Germany. And with me, I have on the panel Jörg Kemkes.
Yes, my name is Jörg Kemkes. I'm partner with Reuter and Partner, not like this wonderfully crafted brochure says Reuter Partner, so it is Reuter Partner, quite a common mistake. And we are helping primarily American companies going to Germany. We are doing this for more than 30 years. Our office is based in San Francisco, and our headquarters are in Munich, Germany. That's the connection to Bavaria. And amongst our clients we have helped to enter the German markets are Salesforce, Cisco, Airbnb, but also small companies you've never heard of, between 1 and 2,000 employees. It's our client range in Germany.
Yeah, and next to Jörg, we have Klaus Brisch. Maybe you introduce yourself too.
Yeah, my name is Klaus. Thank you very much for having me on the panel. Actually, this is the German Consul General. I was just sitting right there. So if you really have a question on Germany, you better ask him. I just can give you some insights on the legal implications of what to do and what not to do when it comes to entering Europe through Germany and especially Bavaria. Probably a few words on DWF. That's a UK-based law firm with about 1,800 attorneys worldwide. I'm head of the tech sector for that company. I'm based in Cologne, Germany. We're closely together with Invest in Bavaria, and I have one specific link to Los Angeles, which is that I have the pleasure and honor to be the representative of the World Trade Center Los Angeles and the Los Angeles County Economic Development Corporation in Germany, and therefore we really try to enhance the business exchange between LA-based companies and German, let's say, industry hubs. And one of the most favorable areas and regions for specific industry hubs is Bavaria.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. So the way we wanted to structure this session is that I give maybe a 10-minute overview of Germany, German's tech ecosystem, and then we have about 10 minutes that I will do an interview with you, and then we open the floor to questions to all you. But if you have questions in between, please just raise your hand and we try to get the questions as they come, because sometimes things are not clear, and the goal is really to help to work against misconceptions and against prejudices that you might have against Germany. And so yeah, let's get right in. So we called it Techwanderlust because we would like to help tech companies that are interested in Germany as a market, and sometimes it's difficult to navigate a new market and you don't know where to start, especially in a federal country like Germany. Germany, unlike, for example, France, which is a very centered country and centered economy, does not have one clear economic center. We are a federal state and have lots of centers. But let's have a look first at Germany as a market. You can see the European market in general is a very large market in size, fairly similar to the US market. And within the European market, Germany is the largest economy. So just by size of population, we have about 18 million inhabitants, and we have about 3 trillion, sorry, it's like GDP. And the UK is the second largest market, and it's going to leave the European Union in a couple of months, years, 2 years, 1.5 years from now. And we will talk about that later on the main stage. So if you're interested in learning more about the UK-EU relationship, please come in later to our session on the main stage. But let's focus on Germany. So as you can see, Germany is quite a large market and quite an interesting market. And I would like to give you a better understanding of the startup ecosystem. You might have heard a couple of the names that I put on the screen here. I guess the name that probably most people have heard of is Rocket Internet, which is a company builder based out of Berlin, and it built quite a number of companies. A lot of them are copycats from US startups, but they are very successful in the German and in the European market. And some of them even came to the US. One of the examples is HelloFresh that you might have heard of. They just recently launched in the US and did a huge amount of funding, and they're filing for IPO quite soon. at least as I heard. But you can see that there are a lot of companies that you probably might not have heard of. And I just wanted to show you this picture so you can get a better understanding that there are a lot of things going on right now in Germany. And actually a lot of startups are coming out of Germany. And let's get maybe to the next slide, where you can see an overview of the sectors that get the most funding for the startups. And the biggest sector is, of course, the e-commerce sector. And as far as I know, the recent funding round of HelloFresh is already included in that slide. That's why the e-commerce is quite large. But you can also see that fintech has gotten big funding rounds recently, and also health and software and analytics. And you can see it's a very diverse economy in Germany in general. And also the startups in all different sectors have gotten a lot of funding. From the geographical perspective, you can clearly see that Berlin has attracted the most funding. And Berlin is clearly the startup center of Germany. And even though I'm not working for Berlin, I'm working for another state that comes second in this slide, for Bavaria. We just see that the most startup activities are going on in Berlin. And this is just the number of funding rounds, and I have the total sum of funding for the first 6 months in 2017 here. And you can see that Berlin is clearly a startup hub. But what should you do as a tech company from the US? Are you a startup looking for funding? Well, then you should probably look to Silicon Valley and not to Berlin, because the amount of funding you could get is probably a lot higher in Silicon Valley than in Berlin. But what are you looking for in the German market? I assume you're looking for this. Those are all the DAX 30 brands that you probably associate with Germany. Those are the Lufthansa, the BMW, the Volkswagen, the Daimler, and you can see that they're all over Germany. So if you're looking for clients in all those sectors, then you really have to get an understanding where are they located and where can I get in touch with them. So I just wanted to give you a geographical overview, and you can see that 2 of the German states, and I move over to this screen so you can see it a little bit better. So this is Bavaria, the state that I'm working for, but North Rhine-Westphalia and Bavaria, together they are home to 18 of the 30 largest companies in Germany, which is quite an impressive number, I think. And the others are scattered out around the west, the former western part of Germany. And you can see that even though Berlin is quite a hub for startups, they're still in the process of growing. So when you're looking for customers, you have to do an analysis what your customer base is and where you would find them. But Germany is basically not only about the DAX 30 industry giants. It's a lot of, the German economy is a lot about the hidden champions, as we call it. We have about 1,500 hidden champions in Germany. That means they're world leaders in their very specific niche. That could be they're manufacturers for, I don't know, screws, or they're manufacturers for machinery, for laser, or they're, I don't know, they're for parts of an airplane. And you might not have heard of those companies, but they're world leader in their very specific niche, and they might be an interesting customer base for you. And you should try to find the customer base among those, because all of them are very innovative. You can see per 1,000 employees, they have 5 times more patents than large companies. So they're always looking for innovative technologies to implement in their processes. They're not as small as you might think. Most of them, or many of them, have more than 1,000 employees worldwide. And a lot of them are actually family-owned and still private companies, which makes it sometimes easier to work with because the decision-making process can be quite fast, because if the owner takes a decision and doesn't have to go through a board decision or something, then this can be very fast. And here again, you can see that about 70% of the hidden champions are based in 3 of the German states that are Bavaria, Baden-Württemberg, and North Rhine-Westphalia. So if you're looking for customers in that base, you should really see where your customers are, and you will see that they're spread out over Germany, but concentrated on a couple of locations. So, what is the German government doing regarding digitization? The German federal government has implemented a new strategy about digital hubs, and we realized that we don't want to have one Silicon Valley in Germany, but we would like to have several Silicon Valleys in Germany. And the federal government did an analysis where the strengths are and named a couple of places, digital hubs for certain topics. And you can see Berlin is a hub for IoT and fintech, Potsdam for media tech, Hamburg for logistics, Dortmund for logistics, Cologne for insurtech, Frankfurt and Darmstadt, this region is for fintech and cybersecurity, Mannheim, Ludwigshafen for digital chemistry, digital health, Karlsruhe is a hub for artificial intelligence, Stuttgart for future industries or manufacturing, Dresden, Leipzig for smart systems and smart infrastructure, and Nuremberg, Erlangen for digital health, and Munich, mobility and insurtech. So you can see, depending on the industry you're in, depending on the technology that you have, you really have to do an analysis which location would be the best for you to start in the market. Do you see a hand rise? No. Okay, sorry. Yeah, but that was just a very quick overview of the geography of Germany and the economy of Germany. But I also wanted to give you some tips for business development because, I mean, that's how you start. You start with finding customers, and that's usually done by business development. And we broke it down to five areas. The first one is, and I mentioned that before, do a good analysis of who are your potential clients and where are they based. And if you find that there is a good product market fit, when you approach those clients, you should be aware that German companies, they are already producing very high quality products. So they are looking for something that enhances their quality. And they're not that much oriented on price, but rather on quality. And also important is reliability. So if you promise something, you should be able to keep it. Because if you cannot keep your promise, you lost the trust of the company, and then in the long term you won't do any business with that company. The second one is, so where will you find clients? Of course, you can start with doing an online research, but I think at some point you want to meet them in person. And German companies are usually very, very international, very global, so they go to a lot of trade shows. They go to a lot of trade shows in the US, but they also go to a lot of trade shows in Germany. So I would recommend, like, once you identify your client, have a look at which trade shows you would be able to meet them, and you may find that they will be quite close to you at a trade show, so you don't have to travel to Germany at first. But at some point, you definitely want to travel to Germany to a trade show to meet the company. And if you have any questions about interesting trade shows, I would be happy to give you more information, but this is just not enough time here. And another thing is you will find, like, when you look online, not a lot of German people are on LinkedIn. The German market is a market that is big enough to sustain their own social networks, and a lot of German people are still only on Xing or Crossing, however you want to pronounce it, which is a German business social network. So you might be used to using LinkedIn as your tool to reach out, to do cold emails to your potential customers. You won't find a lot of German people on LinkedIn unless they have already close ties to the US. So maybe it's worth checking out Xing as a social media. The third one is, and that's actually very, very important, be aware of differences in communication styles. So when you look at those two pictures, German are very direct in communication. They don't do a lot of turnarounds and so small talk. So you have to be aware that sometimes they can be pretty blunt, which we might probably hear later. And, and also, German people usually don't smile, so don't be, like when you go on the streets, I think what you see here in the US, people will smile much more than they do in Germany. Actually, when I was new to San Francisco, I was just walking on the street and someone approached me and was like, "What's wrong with you? Why are you so sad?" I'm like, I just had my normal look. I'm sorry. So, yeah, but that's Germans also. So it's not only the Russians. Yeah. So the third one is when you're building relationships with partners and customers, I think 3 things are very important. The first thing, it's not a cliche, be punctual. German people really respect time, and they want you to be punctual, and they try to be punctual. The second one is be prepared. I've seen it a lot of times here in the US. People show up at meetings totally unprepared, and the first 15 minutes are just like, oh, where do we stand and what's happening? That's not happening in Germany. German people are prepared, and they expect it from business partners to be prepared. And the third one I already mentioned, so it's promises and realities. Don't promise more that you can really, really hold, because German people, they don't promise you a lot. They promise you what they can hold, and that's usually a very good quality. And they expect it from their business partners as well. And the fifth is be aware of differences in negotiating and decision-making. I think in the US, decision-making is done much more quickly than it is in Germany, because German decision-making is very thorough. But once you reach a decision, you can rely on it. So it might, like when you get in touch with big companies in Germany, it might take some time to reach a decision, but it's worth gold, because it's really something that you can rely on. And yeah, so I think that's my 5 tips. And I would like to move on and talk to the experts.
Who's that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we have Jörg, who is a tax consultant, and Klaus, who is a lawyer, and both of them have helped numerous companies. And I wanted to ask you if you have any advice that you would give companies, or maybe have you any advice what not to do when going to Germany? I don't know. Let's start with Jörg.
So, first of all, don't believe everything you hear. That means...
Not even that.
But
not even that. No, that was a very good capturing of everything. But normally when I give a talk, I always try to ask the audience, you can do it this way. When you think about Germany or doing business in Germany, what is the first thing that comes to mind? That's good. Something else? Pardon me?
Discipline.
Also good. So there seems to be a little bit other than the other audiences, because the first things that normally come is rigid employment law and high taxes. So we changed all this already in the early 2000s. And the most important thing is when you hire someone in Germany, there's no need that you keep this individual until he or she retires. So up to 10 employees you can in Germany hire and fire at your discretion. And every company, when you hire someone the first time, you have a probation period of 6 months, and you can, I don't like your sweatshirt, go. Okay, maybe you shouldn't say the part about the sweatshirt, but you can letting someone go without any reason that moment. So that means there's a very low risk in it. Seriously, when you don't know after 6 months how someone performs, then maybe you are to blame yourself and you still keep this person. The other thing is about high taxes, especially in California. You have maybe 35% corporate federal tax, and then maybe 10 or 13% on top of this state tax. The overall tax rate for a German company is just 30%. So that means the companies are way better off in Germany than the individuals are. But when you hire locally, it's their problem. They're used to this issue. But the most important thing is it is just 30% of the profit you actually make in Germany. And the next thing is, especially when it comes to HR, when you hire in Germany, setting up a health plan is the problem of the individual you are hiring. They come with a health plan, which you have to accept. And another misperception is that everybody thinks in Germany healthcare is free, which it is definitely not. It is very expensive, and the costs are borne between employee and employer, 50-50% by law. There's a cap. The maximum employer contribution is around 310 or 312 euros per month. So let's say he comes up with a plan of 500 euros, you both pay each 250. If it's 400 euro, you only pay 310, and the remaining 490 is going to be paid by the employee himself. So that means you do not have the administrative burden of come up with a health plan to compare this, because this is something the individual has to do by themselves. And I think these are already a lot of steps that makes it very easy to get started in Germany. And now a little bit of self-promoting. When I started doing this, I was very surprised that one of the first questions was how to get a bank account. I was totally baffled by this, because what we do is we set up trust accounts for our clients in our name, but only the money of the client goes in and out. It's like your own bank account. And we have companies that are using this model for 10 plus years, and we can open this account within 1 hour and also close it within 1 hour, because when clients insist on having their own bank accounts, and sometimes, especially US clients, neglect to tell us that the signatory have left the companies, and then it is really an ordeal to close down such a bank account.
Yeah.
So, but I do not want to take up all the time, pretty sure.
Thank you, Jörg. So maybe, Klaus,
Yeah.
you want to also
Well,
share
and
some
basically, I always
insights?
like when he takes the legal part. And it's all right what he said, so
course.
that's really good. So basically, I'm just here to look nice in the picture, I guess. No, but you probably know the proverb, well, when you're in Rome, do as the Romans do. So though Rome is obviously in Italy, not in Germany, it's still the same message. And what I mean by that is, well, if you do not have any experience of doing business abroad, the question is, well, how can you get experience as quickly as possible and as less cost worthy as possible? So this basically means try e-commerce. Is that new to you? No. You probably have your own online shops, you're marketing your products, your services online. So why not doing this for the European market and German market especially? As a first test bed, as a first test field, well, what the reaction is? Well, then getting back to my proverb, you need to really understand one thing, and that's completely probably different in the United States. German businesses and European consumers, I mean European consumers, which is a 470 million market for you, they're trained in a specific way because 80% of all of our legal statutes, of our directives and laws, what we have around e-commerce, they're basically harmonized all over Europe. So if you do it once correctly for the European market, you actually can not only target the German market, you can target the rest of Europe as well. So why I'm saying this is, I don't know why, but American companies seem to be very hesitant to set up a compliant internet platform for the European market. They believe by just saying, well, we are also open for Europe, that they will be successfully in Europe. No, they're not. Because European consumers are trained to look at a website in a specific way. Who knows what is an imprint? Any idea what an imprint is all about? No. You know? Okay, very good. Impressum. That's it. Yeah. So imprint is a certain term which is familiar with all of Europeans. So what I'm saying there is, it's a specific button that needs to be on your website. If you press the button, then a certain other website comes up, which presents in a very transparent way who you are, what you are, where you're located, how a consumer can get in touch with you. That's a compliance requirement of an EU directive on electronic commerce. And that has been around for 15 years now. And wherever we are, we always find great surprise that nobody knows what an imprint is when we're in the United States. So, but this would be, and every consumer in the European Union will look whether or not they get information on who you are. And I'm very astonished all the time where Americans and American companies are so hesitant to display who they are. What do they have to hide? And the analysis is very simple. If you are afraid of telling who you are, how shall somebody get trust in your service and your products? So that's my basic message.
Yeah, thank you, Klaus. And unfortunately, I just learned that we don't have time to take questions here on the open floor, but all three of us will be available just right outside. So if you have any questions, please feel free to approach us. And we will also be on the panel later talking about Europe as a whole.
But maybe Klaus can take 2 minutes and simply tell how easy it is to set up an entity in Germany, that also no one has to come to Germany when they want to do this.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So once you have figured out, well, that you may have success via an online platform to enter the European and the German market, then you eventually will become more active. So one of the assets then is to have a permanent establishment. For instance, you found a GmbH, which is comparable to the limited liability company. And we did this within 12 days, basically, and you're all set up. You don't need to be there. We can do this for you. So it's really To make a long story short, it's doable, and it's not really a nuisance. It can all be done via somebody who really is very experienced like Jörg, and since he's based in the States, he really does it on a day-to-day basis. I fly in and out, but what basically says, what the message is, it can be done, it's easy to be done, it has been done, so there's no obstacle for that and for you not to enter the European market, especially the German market. And use Germany especially, and that's what we're going to intensify later on, as a European hub to enter the other European countries as well.
But he says this now, because when this client was in need of a GmbH right now, and I promised him we can do it in 12 days, he wanted to talk to me outside. But we managed it in the end.
We managed to do that, yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So as you can tell, we try to make it very easy for US companies to explore the German market and to set up shop in Germany and to be successful in Germany. And we're all, like Jörg and I, we're based in the US. Klaus is really very often here in LA. And yeah, we just are available for any questions that you might have. And please meet us outside. Thank you.
Thank you very much.